Just you the first one?
Up because I got a short. I brought a really tiny one.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Genesis Robinson. I am the Executive Director of Equal Ground Education Fund and Equal Ground Action Fund. We are a Black-led voting rights organization working in the community to ensure that we increase civic engagement as well as build political power. I am joined today by allied organizations, impacted voters, and concerned citizens. We stand together as part of a broad coalition committed to defending democracy and protecting the voices of everyday Floridians. While I'm not proud of the circumstances in which we are here, I'm proud of the people standing here today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to uplift our communities and their voices as we demand what is right. We're here because Florida's governor and legislative leaders are attempting something unprecedented, dangerous, and fundamentally undemocratic. A mid-decade redistricting process designed to tip the scales of power for political purposes and silence voters, particularly those in the most marginalized communities of our state. Less than 20 years ago, the people of Florida, Republicans, independents, Democrats alike, came together and overwhelmingly approved the Fair District amendments. They did so because they understood then what we know is still true today. And that is that rigging maps have no place in a free and fair democratic society.
Hear, hear.
We do not want politicians choosing their voters. And we made it illegal to draw districts that favor a political party, that dilutes the voting power of minority groups, or drawn in a way to favor incumbents. We made it illegal, not questionable, not up for interpretation, but illegal. And yet today we watch as elected officials abandon their constitutional duty to serve the people, choosing instead to serve the political demands of one man who has openly called for gerrymandering across the country. That is not democracy. That is a power grab. And Florida legislators, our message to you is that your allegiance is to your constituents, the people of Florida, the people who sent you to Tallahassee to protect their interests, not work against them. Undermining our democracy to serve political ambition and personal loyalty is a betrayal of public trust. We deserve leaders who will stand up for the people, not sell us out for power. Unfortunately, we've seen this movie before. Florida has a long and complicated history of gerrymandering. In fact, just 3 years ago, the governor forced through a congressional map that dismantled black political representation across the state, tearing apart communities from Tallahassee and the Panhandle through Jacksonville and Central Florida all the way down to South Florida. It erased decades of progress and silenced the voices of black voters, brown voters, and other marginalized groups who have long fought to be heard. Redistricting is not just about lines on a map. It's about power. It determines who gets to sit at the table and who is shut out. It is about whether our communities have a real voice in decisions about our schools, economic policies, public safety, voting rights, affordable housing, and health care. And when politicians manipulate district lines, they manipulate the outcomes, deciding who wins even before a voter gets a chance to cast a ballot. And so today we collectively stand to say no. We will not allow Florida to redraw maps behind closed doors. We will not accept maps designed to predetermine the outcome. We will not allow our state to continue to strip away the voting rights of the most marginalized constituents in our state.
No.
We will not let politicians choose their voters.
No.
And so today we rise our voices and we demand hands off our maps. Follow the law, respect the will of the voters, because Florida belongs to the people, not the politicians. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
At this time, I'll be bringing forth Mr. Jonathan Weber from Southern Poverty Law Center.
Thank you so much to Genesis, of course. Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. My name is Jonathan Weber. I'm the Florida Policy Director for the Southern Poverty Law Center, a nonpartisan nonprofit. Thank you, Brad. Earlier this year, President Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. He pressured Republican-controlled legislatures across the country to redraw their congressional maps for his own political gain. In Texas, he even claimed, "We are entitled to 5 more seats." Let me be clear, no politician and no party is entitled to a single seat. It is the people who are entitled to fair maps and equal representation. Here in Florida, we know this fight well. Generations of Floridians lived through the long shadow of Jim Crow. We watched Black Floridians push through decades of discrimination just to claim their fair and rightful place in our democracy. We remember and celebrate the triumph of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. We remember in 2010 when Floridians of every political party and independents amended our state constitution to demand fair districts because they were tired of politicians choosing their voters. We remember the truth exposed after 2012 when illegal partisan gerrymandering had so infected our process that the courts had to step in. Then came 2022. We saw our governor throw the process into chaos and impose a controversial congressional map that dismantled representation for communities tracing their roots back to enslavement and Reconstruction. A map that stripped students at Florida's 2 oldest HBCUs, Edward Waters University in Jacksonville and Florida A&M University right here in Tallahassee, of the ability to elect the candidates of their choice. And now we're watching it all over again. Not because Florida's laws changed, and not because we have new census data, but because the sitting president is demanding a political map that serves his interests. And the governor is desperate to stay nationally relevant at any cost. Among all the problems with this redistricting push, the clearest and most troubling is that it comes at the expense of the real issues Florida families desperately need their lawmakers to address. Floridians are drowning in property insurance hikes, soaring health care and housing costs, and utility and grocery bills that get higher every month. Instead of helping them, politicians are redrawing maps to protect partisan interests. To Governor DeSantis, Floridians are not confused and we are not intimidated. We are not giving up fair districts. To the legislature, your constitutional duty could not be more clear. You can obey the Constitution or bow to political pressure, but you cannot do both. If you redraw these maps based on partisan gains, you will violate the Florida Constitution. You will waste taxpayer money, and you will deepen the mistrust voters already feel about whether their leaders respect the rule of law. You do not have to repeat this history. You can choose the Constitution over partisanship. You can choose Florida residents over partisan political pressure. You can choose stability, fairness, and the rule of law. Because at the end of the day, fair districts is not a suggestion. It is the law of the state. Follow the Constitution, end this mid-cycle redistricting effort. Florida is watching. Thank you so much. I'd like to call up Ms. Rosemary McCoy.
Good morning. I'm Rosemary McCoy, and Florida considers itself the Bible Belt. The United States consider themselves founded on Christianity and biblical principles. But I have this to say to you. Jesus Christ said, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I loved you. You also to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have loved one another." And that comes from John 13:34 through 35 ESV. We the people draw lines, and we say no to partisan illegal maps. My name is Rosemary McCoy. I stand before you as a descendant of enslaved people whose blood, labor, and resilience built this state and this nation. For over 30 years, I lived in Florida District 5 before it was dismantled. A district where approximately 46% of the population was black, 41% was white. It was a balance. But then we had collective voice in Congress back then. I still live in the same location, but in District 4, where 52% of the population is white and nearly 1/3 is black. This shift is not by chance. It is engineered. They scattered the black folks. Now, I pray that you all understand what that does to me. It reminds me of the slave ships. It reminds me of being my ancestors coming here to the United States and being scattered, separated from our families and our loved ones. Redistricting is not just about lines on a map, it's about your voice. We pay taxes. So we pay taxes. Shouldn't we have a voice in how our money is spent? Shouldn't we have a voice in how laws or policies are made? This is a return of a tactic historically used to prevent black citizens from achieving representation. When districts are drawn to dilute the power of black communities, working class, listen to what I'm saying, working class, we work hard, we pay taxes. And those that are affected by government shutdown, violence, high crime, high cost of living, we lose the ability to demand affordable health care, stronger gun safety laws, mental health intervention, and funding our neighborhoods desperately need. But think about this. This is what happened. My district, Congressional 4, it was Congressional District 4, on August the 26th, 2023, 3 black Floridians were murdered in a racially motivated shooting at the Dollar General in Jacksonville. Now, the tragedy of all of this here is that Governor DeSantis declined $15 million in federal funds from the bipartisan Safer Community Act. The money could have been used to expand mental health services, strengthen background checks, and build violence protection programs. Instead, he gave $1 million to Edward Waters for security. We thank him for that. But guess what? Security without policy is no protection.
Right.
It is reaction instead of prevention.
Yes.
So I say this, while Governor DeSantis with the $915 million, Congressman Aaron Bean sent his condolences to the families, but his condolences did not stop prevention. Congressional District 4 needs leaders, unlike Congressman Aaron Bean, to sponsor policies that save lives and protect voices. Remember, most of my fellow speakers, they mentioned protect our housing. We have high insurance rates, expand our education, build climate resilience, improve our fair wages, transportation. We have a lot of things that we could be working on instead of trying to pass an illegal map.
Yes.
But this is the other thing I want Congress to understand. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell in it. That means that nothing belongs to any race of people. Nothing belongs to any particular party. It belongs to every last one of us.
Yes.
To stand against that. It belongs to the community. I don't care if they are homeless people. It belongs to all of us.
Yes.
And it's plenty. We can share it and we can all thrive. So we're telling you today, we ask the public to stand with us. Call your congressperson. You can use, it's called 5 calls. The number 5, CALLS.org. You can log that in. Guess what? You can call your congressperson. Thank you so very much.
Good morning. My name is Brad Ashwell. I'm Florida State Director for All Voting is Local Action. All Voting is Local Action is a nonpartisan organization that advocates for policies and legislation that expands voter access and prevents partisan interference in our elections. And that's exactly what we're talking about here today. We're here today because lawmakers are taking the illegal step of redrawing districts halfway through the normal cycle to avoid being held accountable by voters. Instead of competing on the record, they're trying to rewrite the rules of the game. That's why we're here, to call out an abuse of power and stand up for voters who deserve leaders who actually address the problems families and businesses face, as Rosemary was just talking about. Drawing districts for partisan gains is illegal under Florida's Constitution, as Mr. Weber pointed out, no matter the timeline. But this fight isn't just about lines on a map, it's about whether every voter, including Black, Hispanic, and marginalized voters, get a chance to choose representatives in the system that supposedly to serve our interests through free and fair elections. Partisan gerrymandering is a direct attack on voters' power, and its harm is felt in every corner of our democracy. When politicians draw districts to protect themselves or their party, the result is a safe seat, where outcomes are predetermined and voters are effectively cut out of the process. People feel like their votes don't matter. That frustration erodes trust, depresses turnout, and leaves communities disconnected from the government that's supposed to represent them. And the erosion of our democracy doesn't just end there. With no real threat of losing, politicians stop listening. They stop listening to constituents, accountability disappears, and power consolidates in the hands of a few. Through tactics like cracking and packing, map drawers dilute or isolate voters, especially those in marginalized communities, weakening their collective voice. These voters end up with fewer representatives who understand their needs and ultimately less influence over policies that shape their lives. Over time, this engineered imbalance deepens inequities and undermines confidence and fairness of the entire system. When partisan districts reward extremism instead of cooperation, polarization grows, and that's a lot of what we're seeing these days. Safe seats incentivize the loudest voices, not the most effective ones. This pushes elected officials further from the center, making bipartisan solutions even harder to achieve. Stopping partisan gerrymandering is not a partisan issue. It's an imperative for the future of our democracy. Voters deserve real choices. Voters deserve real choices, real accountability, and a government that reflects and respects every community. We call on Florida lawmakers to reject this blatantly partisan anti-democratic push for mid-cycle redistricting, and all voters should call on them to stop this now. Thank you. Nancy Batista is up next.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Batista, and I live in Florida's District 9, represented by Congressman Darren Soto, a district that holds one of the largest and fastest growing Hispanic populations in our state. I'm here because redistricting is not just about drawing lines on a map, it's about deciding whose communities are protected and whose voices are weakened. For families like mine, this is personal. I'm the wife of a military veteran, and like so many veteran and immigrant families in District 9, we came here for opportunity, stability, and a chance to build a future. But opportunity doesn't mean much when political lines are drawn in a way that silence the very communities who make Central Florida strong. When the maps don't reflect our growth, the consequences are real. And yes, there are political consequences that can determine life and death. But first, let me go back to something that we might all have heard of in history, something that may have nothing to do with politics at all. The Titanic. How many lifeboats were allotted? Who decided that? During that time, it wasn't decided on how many people were aboard the ship, but rather on the looks. In the end, they determined the level of priority to save people mostly on how wealthy they were. In 2016, during the Maria hurricane, we had the Puerto Rican diaspora happen. We didn't have enough schools, teachers, or resources to go around. Mobile schools sprung up everywhere in an attempt to take care of our directly impacted communities. In 2018, we saw the need to expand language access at the polls to meet the need of those monolingual voters, and were able to win. In 2020, we had COVID-19 happen. We saw that many of those vulnerable communities did not have access to some of those much needed resources unless they were to decide between working and putting food on the table or receiving access to health care. That same year, my uncle, a custodian in Osceola County, the schools were shut down. And yet, we had the governor threaten the school board and municipalities if they didn't reopen. My uncle died that year, after 72 days in the hospital. If redistricting happens, the most vulnerable people in our community will be the ones who lose access to care, to resources, and to fair representation. We deserve someone that understands our communities and their needs. We deserve enough lifeboats to save everyone in our community, not only those that they think they matter. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Abdillah Skier. I'm a senior campaign strategist at the ACLU of Florida. Our mission is to protect, defend, promote, and advance the constitutional rights and civil liberties of all people that are guaranteed by the Constitution. Voters should choose our elected officials, not the other way around.
Yes.
No matter where we live or where we came from, Floridians believe in that basic fairness. But President Trump has pressured politicians nationwide to draw congressional districts to help his party win control of Congress. And what began in Texas has now opened up the Pandora's box around the country. And the same thing is happening here in Florida.
Not yet.
That's right. Earlier this year, Governor DeSantis claimed that Florida had to redraw its districts because of an undercount of the 2020 census. Now he says it must happen because of a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. Who knows, maybe he'll come up with another reason tomorrow. Governor DeSantis can make any excuse he wants. No one was talking about redistricting before this gerrymandering race to the bottom started. Doing so now would be a direct response to President Trump's call to draw new congressional districts. To be perfectly clear, in Florida, it's illegal and unconstitutional to draw districts to benefit one party over another. Voters banned partisan gerrymandering when they overwhelmingly passed the Fair Districts Amendments in 2010. Because Floridians know that when politicians choose their own voters, our democracy suffers. Our leaders must focus on the job they were elected to do, protect our rights, and create a more affordable future for everyone in this state. And to the people of Florida, if you're angered by the idea of politicians choosing their own voters to make elections easier to win, you're not alone. The majority of Floridians are with you, including a majority of Republican voters.
Yes, we are.
And this is not a done deal, folks. In other states, members of the president's own party are standing up against this partisan power grab. Reach out to your representative and your senator to oppose this redistricting effort. If you can make it to Tallahassee this Thursday, there will be a rally of democracy supporters waiting for you. And on December 10th, be sure to come to Tallahassee and make your voice heard, because our democracy is worth fighting for. Thank
I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. That concludes our press conference. If there are any questions from press, the speakers will entertain those at this time.
If the governor's effort and the legislature's effort succeeds, do you expect a legal challenge?
Well, we're certainly going to keep all of our options open. We know that Florida has a long, complicated history with respect to redistricting. We know that we have seen legal challenges before. I'm not prepared to say either way. We don't even have maps at this point, right? The reason, the rationale continues to shift. So I think it's premature to suggest that there will be a legal challenge. However, we know that if we move forward with a mid-decade redistricting effort that is unprecedented, that is a violation of Florida law, and as such, we expect there to be consequences for that.
Would you anticipate that candidate qualifying would also have to be changed in the state congressional? That's scheduled for late April.
Yes, that's an excellent question. We know that the logistics of this matter. Supervisors of elections obviously don't welcome any unexpected changes. It makes their life harder. Again, we just did this 3 years ago. We just did this 3 years ago where we forced supervisors to come into compliance with the new map that was litigated and approved. And so to do so mid-decade would certainly create chaos, and we know that's something that they don't want in their process.
Yeah, thank you. John, I'd like to respond to that question as well. Not only would this be a problem for candidates, but also doing a late spring or spring special session would also eliminate the people's ability to interact with this process as well. They already were largely cut out of the process because of COVID back in 2021, 2022, when we just did this. So there has not been an in-depth roadshow around the country where people can look at the maps, interact with them, and actually have their voice heard in the various communities around the state. Doing a rushed week-long special session in April hurts Floridians more than it hurts candidates, and that's also a major concern of ours. Yeah.
What would you say to the Democrats and Republicans who are getting ready to debate this topic on Thursday in your committee?
I mean, I think our answer is simple: is don't do this. You don't have to do this. And if you do it, and it's done for partisan gain, this is illegal. It's against the Constitution. That's it.
This is at a cost to taxpayers, of course, right? Your districting is not cheap, plus the litigation that would follow. I mean, is that part of the thought process here, why this might not be the most?
I mean, there are a number of reasons in which they should not move forward with the mid-decade redistricting push. But, I don't want to harp, but the reality is this is illegal, right? To redraw the lines for partisan reasons is illegal.
Yes.
Period, full stop. The voters of this state have affirmed that. Bipartisan group of voters affirmed that. This is not something that just Democrats are saying. This is not something that independents or Republicans are saying. The voters of Florida said that we want to rid our system of rigged and gerrymandered maps. And we're simply asking our legislators, our lawmakers, the people who create laws, to follow the law. That's all we're asking.
Mr. Shakir addressed this, but the governor has not said, right, this is for partisan reasons. He said this is because of the Supreme Court case, or this is because of miscalculated census data. Do you think that affects when you say this is illegal, the ability to make the case?
Certainly. So we know that the governor and the legislature got their preferred map 3 years ago. That was a map that had massive opposition. It decimated black representation in Congress. It shifted the balance of power in our congressional representation, and it gave Republicans an advantage in our congressional delegation. And so for us to do this 3 years removed from you getting the very thing that you wanted shows us that this is about other motivations. And we know that earlier this year, the President of the United States was in the state of Florida, and he was visiting with the governor, in which he demanded and floated the idea of possibly redrawing our maps. At that time, the governor said he would be open to the idea. And that is when this process is unfolded. So the governor can roll out whatever rationale that he wants. He knows that the fair district amendments exist, and that's why he's very careful in terms of how he talks about this issue. But we know that there was no conversation of redrawing our maps until the president made the call for states to do so, to give them a better chance of holding power in Congress.
How do you square your positions here in Florida to the push in California, other democratically led states, to do exactly this, to redistrict for their own partisan gain?
Yeah, so one thing that I'll say, right, and this is very important, the state of Florida is unique in the sense that we have fair district amendments. We are not the state of California. California has an independent redistricting commission. The state of Florida, just like many southern states and many states throughout the country, the redistricting process is controlled by the legislature. And so that makes us unique, right? What happened in California, at least that was taken to the voters, right? And so the voters approved for their redistricting process to play out the way that it did. Our voters, when they passed the fair district amendments, approved how our redistricting process to play out. And we're simply asking them to follow the law. Whether Prop 50 was passed about a month ago, or whether the Fair District Amendments was passed over almost 2 decades ago, the will of the voters remains, and it should be respected and protected.
And I just wanted to add, as I said earlier, what happened in Texas was the first domino to fall, and it really did open up Pandora's box and start a nationwide race to the bottom with states redistricting in response to Texas's redistricting. And the fact of the matter is that partisan gerrymandering, no matter who does it, is wrong and it's bad and it hurts voters in the long run, and our democracy suffers for it. In Florida, we're a little unique, and so we have constitutional protections against partisan gerrymandering, and that's what we're telling legislators today, is that any effort to draw districts that benefit one party over another is unconstitutional in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm just going to grab the mic. There were a couple of questions that I wanted to respond to earlier that aren't quite as high level. But, there's a question about candidate qualifying. There's a question about taxes and costs. And I still wanted to get lost that this is going to have a direct impact on voters. There'll be a lot of confusion. If redistricting is done late into the cycle, it's going to lead to re-precincting, a lot of notifications that supervisors are going to have to do. It's going to be a huge administrative burden and cost as supervisors of elections on the county level. And it's going to create a lot of voter confusion just knowing where to vote and that sort of thing. So I just don't want them to be lost. There are real voter impacts here, and this is a blatant attempt to create chaos in the system, which is a lot of what we've been seeing the last 5 years.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you all hopefully at the hearing on Thursday. And we ask that you please continue to follow this story and educate voters about the importance of